stories tonight in Y News. Meralco cautions its customers of an increase in electricity rates this March following the hike in fuel prices.
The Department of Budget and Management has released the 2.5 billion pesos in funds for the fuel subsidy of public utility vehicle drivers as oil prices continue to skyrocket.
The government's pandemic task force is set to discuss the parameters about placing some areas under alert level 0 amid the decreasing number of COVID-19 cases in the Philippines.
Australia confirms second fatality from the Japanese encephalitis virus as authorities urge residents to avoid mosquito bites to reduce their chance of being infected.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Thursday, March 10, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am Herlene Delgado.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news. Customers of the Manila Electric Company or Meralco will need to further squeeze their budgets as electricity bills are also anticipated to rise this month. Meralco said that the overall rate for a typical household or those consuming 200 kilowatt hour inched up by 0.0625 from February's 9 pesos and 5.842 per kilowatt hour to 9 pesos and 6.467 per kilowatt hour. The rate hike translates to an increase of around 13 pesos in the total bill of a residential customer consuming 200 kilowatt hour. The upward adjustment came after 2 consecutive months of power rate reductions. Meralco attributed the rate increase to the uptick in generation charge, mainly due to higher charges from the wholesale electricity spot market.
Meanwhile, the Department of Budget and Management has released the allocated fund for the fuel subsidy and discount vouchers to public transport workers and farmers. Asher Kadapan Jr. tells us why live. Yes, Asher, good evening. Go ahead.
Good evening, Will. The fuel subsidy has been finally released to provide assistance to affected sectors and to cushion the impact of the continuous oil price hikes in the past 3 months. Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board confirms the release of the 2.5 billion peso fuel subsidy by the Department of Budget and Management and explains that its distribution will start next week. LTFRB Executive Director Maria Cristina Cason says they will have a meeting with the Land Bank of the Philippines tomorrow to finalize the distribution process of the fuel subsidy to its beneficiaries. Over 377,000 beneficiaries will receive 6,500 pesos primarily through the Pantawid Pasada program and other means for those who are not included in the program. The aid will be directly provided not only to affected jeepney drivers, but also to qualified drivers of UV Express, minibuses, buses, shuttle services, taxis, tricycles, and other full-time ride-hailing and delivery services nationwide. Aside from this, another 500 million pesos has been transferred to the Department of Agriculture for the fuel discount program. This will provide discounts to farmers and fisher folks who own agricultural or fishery machinery. The fuel discount can be claimed through fuel discount cards, which will be issued through the Development Bank of the Philippines. Well, concerned transport groups are also anticipating another 2.5 billion peso fuel subsidy for PUV operators to be released in April. Pasang Mazda explains it has been promised by Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade, hence the former's withdrawal of fare hike petitions. The LTFRB is also expecting the release of 7 billion peso fund for the service contracting program within the month of March. Will?
Yes, thank you, Asher Kadapan Jr., reporting live from Quezon City.
President Rodrigo Duterte reiterated that the Philippines must honor its commitment to the proposed joint oil exploration with China in the Recto Bank. This came after several companies or group have started their exploration in the contested territory. Rosalie Cos details why.
President Rodrigo Duterte revealed he received a reminder from China about the joint exploration activity in the West Philippine Sea, particularly in Recto Bank. The president did not provide much details, but he warned of potential trouble if the agreement will not be honored. Thus, Duterte ensured this would be followed while he is the chief executive.
Hindi lang ninyo kung ano yung pinag-usapan noon. Honor yan eh. It's a matter of honor. We gave our consensual talks. Tapos may written agreement. Pag iniba yan, delikado. So, hindi na mangyari sa akin yan kasi ayaw ko. Ayaw kong ibahin. Kasi yun ang pinag-usapan namin sa panahon.
Recto Bank is considered rich in natural oil and gas deposits. It is part of the Philippines' exclusive economic zone and continental shelf, but China continues to dispute it. However, in 2018, the two countries agreed for future negotiations on joint exploration and development of energy resources in the disputed waters. President Duterte revealed some companies or groups wanted to meddle in the project in Recto Bank.
Pinaalaala sa akin, hindi ko na sabihin kung sino, from China, sabi niya, di ba may usapan tayo na joint development yung sa Recto Ridge, sa Recto Bank. May bagong mga istorya na may papalit na ganun. Alam mo, I can only talk for this time that we are here, administrasyon ko. Bilungan ako ng ano na, huwag ganun. Yung original contracts natin, sundin natin. Ngayon, sabi, magpadala ng sundalo. Sabi ko, wala man kami sinabing padala sundalo. Sabi niya, just in case. Magpadala kayo ng sundalo, magpadala rin kami ng sundalo.
Meanwhile, according to Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi, exploration companies have started their works in the West Philippine Sea. The PXP Energy Corporation holds majority of the operating interest in Service Contract or SC-72, which explores the Recto Bank through the Petroleum Service Contractor Forum Energy PLC.
And I'm happy that SC-72, that's under Forum, they're going to start their exploration. And in fact, they are acquiring already the vessel to be used in the exploration. That is a good development.
In a statement, the company said the service contract is on its second sub-phase of the exploration period, which involves drilling of 2 wells. In 2020, President Duterte lifted the unilateral moratorium on exploration in the West Philippine Sea, which paved the way for the resumption of drilling activities in the disputed waters, including the Recto Bank. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And in other news, the 4th National Vaccination Days officially kicked off today with the national government prioritizing the administration of booster shots to the eligible sector. Janice Inhente has the story.
The national government eyes to vaccinate around 1.8 million individuals during the 4th National Vaccination Drive from March 10 to March 12. The 4th iteration of the campaign aims to administer doses for elderly and children aged 12 to 17, as well as adults who are due for booster shots.
Ng ating booster targets ay 768,000. These are in areas, kagaya ng sabi ko, na medyo mataas na yung vaccination coverage like NCR. Yung first dose na kailangan na ng second dose o nakamiss ng second dose. We have about 585,000 all over the Philippines. And then our A2, that is our priority. We have about 524,000 seniors among the number of seniors na hindi pa na bakunahan.
The DOH is working with the Philippine Medical Association and other medical groups and professionals for the 4th vaccination campaign, which also aims to conduct house-to-house inoculation and reach far-flung areas and communities with very low vaccination rates. DOH Secretary Francisco Duque III said they are planning to expand the campaign and open vaccination sites in airports, seaports, and terminals to improve public access and further increase the country's vaccination rate.
There are about 20,000 clinics spread all over the country. It will help us, especially already with the balance. Umpisahan natin yung rest bakuna sa butika, no? Sinunod natin ngayon yung bakunahan naman sa mga private clinics, no? At palalawigin pa rin natin ito para mapaunlad ang access to our vaccination for our people. So halimbawa sa mga airports, sa mga transport terminals, sa ating seaports, at mga iba pang mga lugar, kasama din ang simbahan, jails, and we will do everything to continue access improvement, no, for our people.
Data from the National COVID-19 Vaccination Dashboard showed that as of March 9, a total of 63.9 million individuals in the country were already fully vaccinated, 62.6 million received their first dose, and 10.6 million got their booster shots. Janice Hente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases will soon be discussing the parameters of placing areas under Alert Level 0, which could move the country close to a new normal. JP Dueñas details why.
With the continuous decline of active COVID-19 cases in the country, the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases, or IATF, will discuss the de-escalation of alert level restriction in some areas. Department of Health Secretary Francisco Duque III said the government's pandemic task force will evaluate the new alert level system. The Health Department observes that the recorded active cases in the past 6 days are less than 1,000, which will be the basis of the escalating to Alert Level 0.
So far, so good naman yung atin Alert Level 1 at kahit na nag-maximum 100% capacity na ang mga establishmento, patuloy naman na bumababa ang atin mga kaso at 6 na araw na tayong below 1,000 cases daily, but hopefully mapababa pa natin ito ng 500 or even less on a daily basis para talagang malay natin baka naman pwede nang mag-de-escalate to alert level 0.
Experts and government advisors are already studying the proposal and will give their recommendations to the IATF. Among the considerations under Alert Level 0 is the removal of mandatory wearing of face masks.
Pero yung Alert Level 0 ay pag-uusapan pa yan ng IATF. Ano ba ang mga elements ng Alert Level 0? Kasi mga tanong, halimbawa, sa Alert Level 0, pwede naman magtanggal ng mask. Pwede na ba huwag gumamit ng huwag na sumunod sa hand hygiene? Okay? O yung mga ventilations, sufficiente ba? No? So maraming mga tanong pang kinakailangan sagutin.
As of now, Metro Manila and 38 other areas in the country is under Alert Level 1. Meanwhile, a group of employers in the private sector supports the de-escalation to help them recover from their loss due to pandemic.
Kami nga, matagal na namin sinasabi yan. Delay na yung paggawa. Wala namang rason. Ba't di mo ibaba? Kita mo naman lahat ng trend.
JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And this Friday marks 2 years since the World Health Organization, or WHO, characterized the global spread of COVID-19 as a pandemic. And despite the global decline in COVID-19 cases, the World Health Organization says the COVID-19 pandemic is far from over. Aiko Miguel reports why.
The worldwide fight against COVID-19 continues according to the World Health Organization. This although COVID-19 cases have already shown a 5% decline, which had started a month ago. According to the WHO, the virus continues to evolve, and the world continues to face major obstacles in distributing vaccines, tests, and treatments. WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said the pandemic still exists.
The pandemic is far from over, and it will not be over anywhere until it's over everywhere. The virus continues to evolve, and we continue to face major obstacles in distributing vaccines, tests, and treatments everywhere they are needed.
Also, WHO COVID-19 Technical Lead Maria Van Kerkhove said the pandemic is not taking a break. Dr. Kerkhove also confirmed the detection of combined Delta and Omicron, dubbed as Deltacron, in patients in some parts of the United Kingdom. The WHO is still studying its transmissibility and severity.
We have not seen any change in the epidemiology with this recombinant. We haven't seen any change in severity, but there are many studies that are underway. So again, the pandemic is far from over.
In a recent study, researchers identified 17 patients in the United States and Europe who have Deltacron. Meanwhile, the Philippines has yet to detect the hybrid variant.
While wala pang malinaw na characterization, itong sinasabi nilang Deltacron. So mag-aantay tayo sa WHO kung ano ang kanilang gabay, ano ba ang mga katangian nitong sinasabing na-detect na Deltacron sa Europe and sa America. So binabantayan yan ng ating Philippine Genome Center at tayo ay nakikibalita araw-araw, minuminuto patungkol dito para makapaghanda naman tayo sakasakaling medyo mabigat o seryoso kung meron man ganun pagtukoy o pagkilala nitong sinasabi nilang Deltacron.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
For those watching our live streaming on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
More reasons behind the stories when One News returns.
Tuloy ang paghahatid ng serbisyo publiko ng programang Serbisyong Bayanihan ngayong may krisis dahil sa pandemya. At bilang bahagi ng ating pinaigting na paglilingkod bayan, maaari ninyong ipaabot ang inyong mga pangangailangan sa pamamagitan ng aming mga social media account. I-type ang inyong pangalan at ang inyong suliranin o kahilingan na ibig ninyong aming maaksyonan. Hintayin ang aming reply at posibleng isa kayo sa mga tatawagan at makakausap namin ng live. Kaya tutok lang sa Serbisyong Bayanihan.
Sa tulong ng Diyos kung ano po yung ating maaaring mapagtulong-tulungan at ating pong matugunan sa inyong mga pangangailangan. Ito po'y walang hinihinging kapalit sa kanino man. Ang ating pong programa ay bukas. Unang-una ay sa diwa po ng ating pagdamay sa ating mga kapwa-tao at kung ano, lalo na sa ganitong kalagayan,
ng atin pong sitwasyon sa buhay, ano ang atin pong maaaring maidamay dun sa mga talagang walang-wala at kinakapo sa buhay. Sakaling meron po namang lumalabis dun sa iba nating mga kababayan, malaman nila kung sino yung nangangailangan, kung sama-sama po tayong magkakatulong-tulungan.
Paalala, ang serbisyong bayanihan ay hindi humihingi ng anumang kapalit sa tulong na aming ibibigay sa inyo.
Ako ang inyong Kuya Daniel Razon at dito po sa UNTV, Diyos ang aming sandigan, serbisyo publiko ang aming pinahahalagahan. Ito po ang serbisyong bayanihan.
Did you know that enamel in our teeth is the strongest substance in the human body? It is composed of 96% minerals and is one of the few parts of the body that cannot repair itself. That is why it's vital to practice good oral hygiene, limit sugary and acidic foods, and see a dentist regularly. Good oral hygiene is also essential to avoid heart disease and diabetes. For more healthcare tips, watch UNTV, your public service channel.
UNTV mobile app gives you the latest on everything that matters to you. Download the UNTV mobile app and catch your favorite shows. Tap and check program schedules. Anywhere you go and any time of the day. Check out the videos page. And watch episodes on demand. For updates and reliable news in just a few taps, download the UNTV mobile app now.
Welcome back to Y News. Candidates gunning for the presidential seat support the plea of labor groups to increase minimum wage amid the rising fuel prices in the country. Eileen Cerudo reports.
Presidential candidate Panfilo Lacson believes the 537 peso minimum wage of workers in the National Capital Region is not enough to sustain their daily needs. Several labor groups would call it a survival wage. For Lacson, it is high time to implement a minimum wage increase, especially when there is a possibility that the rising oil prices would gravely affect prices of commodities and other services.
So mabuti, timely, nag-announce si Secretary Bello na pinare-review niya na yung wage board para tingnan. Magandang move kasi talagang hindi na sapat talaga. Metro Manila man o sa probinsya man, yung minimum wage parang hindi na siya makakope with rising prices because of the oil, yung spike ng presyo ng oil.
Fellow candidate Vice President Lenny Robredo said a minimum wage increase is apt, especially when workers are already appealing to the government. She, however, explains that there should be an agreement between the employers and workers to balance the results.
Kailangan isaalang-alang sa lahat, yung lahat kasi balancing act naman to. Pero yung sinasabi lang natin, pumalo na yung pagtaas ng presyo, wag na tayo maghintay na grumabe pa yung sitwasyon bago tayo umaksyon.
For Action Democratico Presidential Bet Isko Moreno Dumagoso, increasing minimum wage would help workers to adjust with the rising prices.
Kung may tataas yung sweldo ng mga manggagawa at uunawain ng mga negosyante, at wag naman masyado maapektuhan yung mga negosyante para mawala ng trabaho, then I'll be supporting. It's high time. It's high time.
Labor leader Calyodi de Guzman also shares the same sentiment, saying the minimum wage should be at 750 pesos. According to de Guzman, workers are already suffering due to the effects of the tension between Ukraine and Russia.
Bago pa mag-increase ng ganito kagagrabe na dahil doon sa gera ng Ukraine. Kaya dapat, ang panawagan namin ay 750. Itaas yung sahod ng mga manggagawa ng 750 kasabay ng mga taga-probinsya. Dapat pantay. ang sahod ng mga ng Maynila at ng mga probinsya. Kasi pareho lang naman ang presyo ng gasolina, pareho ang presyo ng noodles, ng sardinas, pareho lang naman eh. Yung VAT, 12% dito, 12% din sa probinsya.
Aside from the wage increase, Calyodi also calls for the implementation of the oil deregulation law in order for the government to control fuel prices. Aileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Presidential candidate and Vice President Leni Robredo calls on the government to immediately release the subsidies for sectors directly hit by the rising fuel costs. Meanwhile, Robredo's camp also slammed the alleged red tagging of people's rallies attended by the Robredo ticket in their campaign trail. This report will tell us why. As prices of petroleum products continue to soar, presidential candidate and Vice President Leni Robredo seeks the immediate release of financial aid to affected sectors. Speaking before reporters in Romblon, Robredo notes that the distribution of subsidies should not be delayed so that those who are directly affected by rising prices of fuel and basic commodities won't suffer. The Vice President adds there is a need to assess the minimum wage in the country.
Maliban doon sa pagbigay ng ayuda, kailangan talagang desisyon na ano bang klaseng subsidy yung ibibigay ng pamahalaan maliban sa ayuda. Kung isususpend ba yung excise tax o meron pa bang ibang paraan para hindi ganon maramdaman yung palo ng pagtaas ng presyo.
The Budget Department announced today that it has released the 2.5 billion peso fuel subsidy, and the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board will begin the distribution next week. Meanwhile, the camp of Robredo also condemned the recent red tagging claims of some personalities. This comes after another presidential candidate, Senator Panfilo Lacson, claimed that based on his intel sources and supposedly verified by self-proclaimed ex-communist rebel Jeffrey Celis, the campaign rally of Robredo in Cavite was allegedly infiltrated by communist rebels. In a statement, Robredo spokesman Barry Gutierrez says the blatant and persistent red tagging masked as concern is a new low. He clarifies that there was no coalition government being contemplated and adds that the allegation was irresponsible. Gutierrez also calls it fear-mongering as a cynical effort to diminish the enthusiasm of Robredo supporters. Today, Robredo visited a community learning hub in Tugdan Elementary School in Alcantara Town in Romblon that was launched by the Office of the Vice President last November 2020. Robredo, together with her running mate Senator Francis Pangilinan, also met with fisherfolk leaders in Look. Robredo is confident that she will score victory once again in the province. In the 2016 vice presidential race, Robredo won in Romblon with over 67,000 votes. The Robredo ticket will be heading to Negros Occidental tomorrow. Jorlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Meanwhile, Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio insisted the ban on political caravans and motorcades in Davao City will remain. Mayor Sara cited the city's general welfare amid the ongoing fuel price surge and added that her political party is not exempted on the rules.
Because I am the mayor of Davao City, I am tasked to protect the interests of the Davaoeños. And I believe that with the pahirap na cost ng pandemic, pangalawa, the increasing prices, at yung effect nito sa pahirap na naman ulit sa presyo ng ating basic commodities, ay dapat po nakikiisa tayo sa mga kababayan natin who will most likely na yung mga pinaka nasa baba.
Presidential candidate Panfilo Lacson earlier expressed hope that Duterte Carpio will reconsider the order in the spirit of fair play. Meanwhile, presidential candidate Isko Moreno Dumagoso brushed aside the ban on motorcades in Davao City. On the other hand, Vice President Leni Robredo emphasized that local government units have the right to regulate activities within their localities, while fellow presidential candidate Yodi de Guzman agreed with the directive.
And for the news abroad, Autopsies reveal that another Australian man dies due to Japanese encephalitis as cases increase in Australia. Marvidal Finn will give us the details live. Yes, Marvi, go ahead.
Marielle, the man was in his 70s and died back in February 13 in a Sydney hospital, becoming Australia's second recorded death. The country's first death was recorded as a man in his 60s who died after contracting the virus in Victoria. The virus was suspected first in piggeries back in September and November as pigs faced reproductive losses. Now 20 piggeries nationwide has now been impacted by the virus. Meanwhile, the Japanese encephalitis cannot be transmitted between human to human and will not be contracted by eating pork. However, the elderly and children below 5 are highly vulnerable. Health Minister Martin Foley states that it is a nasty virus, even though only 1% of people show signs of disease and a number of those developing serious symptoms. As of the latest, there have been 15 cases of the virus in Australia, with 7 in Victoria, 3 in New South Wales, and 1 in Queensland, while in South Australia, they suspect 4 cases. Marielle?
Marvi, how can people protect themselves and prevent contracting the disease?
Marielle, to avoid risks of contraction, health officials have advised the public to wear mosquito repellent and minimize skin exposure. Those who also work in piggeries have also been recommended to get a vaccine for the virus to ensure protection. Currently, the government is planning a rollout of vaccines to high-risk populations in the country to reduce serious symptoms from developing. Back to you, Marielle.
Thank you, Marvidal Finn, reporting live from Australia. A massive wildfire scorched over 34,000 acres of land in the Florida Panhandle, but firefighters in Florida are somehow relieved at the unexpected turnout of events. Paul Gatalian tells us why live. Yes, Paul, go ahead.
Ariel, rainfall started pouring down the Florida Panhandle where Bertha Swamp Road Fire is located. This is also the largest area currently burning. Only 20% was contained as of the evening, officials said. On a positive note, the rainfall allowed firefighters to establish containment lines in areas not previously accessible. The Florida Panhandle was once battered by Hurricane Michael in 2018. And the path of the storm it has taken is the exact same path the fire is taking, according to Florida's chief financial officer. However, while the rain being seen now is good, increased winds and low humidity are expected this weekend, which means the wildfire threat remains. The possibility of rain in the coming days will also not be enough to decrease the wildfire threat anytime soon. Officials warned residents to remain cautious as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis declared a state of emergency in Gulf, Bay, and Calhoun counties. Nearly 1,100 homes have been evacuated over the weekend. Additional evacuations in Calhoun County continue as the gusty winds will cause erratic fire behavior that will last through the evening. Meanwhile, the evacuation orders for the Atkins Avenue and Star Avenue fires have been lifted, as more than 80% of fires have already been contained there. Back to you, Marielle.
Thank you, Paul Gatalian, reporting live. A maternity hospital in Ukraine was attacked by a Russian airstrike on Wednesday. Mavian Dog will give us the details live. Yes, Maeve, go ahead.
Marielle, a maternity and children's hospital in the city of Mariupol was badly damaged, caused by a Russian airstrike on Wednesday, which happened in the middle of a ceasefire agreement with Russia. Around 17 people, including staff and patients, were injured, and no deaths and injured children were confirmed so far by authorities. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky considered the said attack a war crime.
Мы не делали и никогда бы не сделали ничего подобного этому военному преступлению ни с одним из городов Донецкой или Луганской, да любой области. ни с одним из городов на земле. Потому что мы люди. А вы? Что это за страна такая, Российская Федерация, которая боится больниц, боится роддомов и уничтожает их?
The attack was also condemned by the international community, including the White House.
It is horrifying to see the type of the barbaric use of military force to go after innocent civilians in a sovereign country.
The city of Mariupol remains surrounded by Russian forces for several days without electricity, water, and food, and people suffering from dehydration. Marielle?
Thank you, Maven Dog, reporting live. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Mariela Toza reporting live from Perth, Australia. Good evening.
And before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God, from the book of Psalms, chapter 19, verse 1. It says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork." And those are the reasons behind the news, March 10, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Hardin Delgado.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Learn how to prevent ailments.
Alagaan ang ating kaisipan. Kayo po